What have I told you? You can make a living traveling, going on vacations, and taking cruises around the world. Well, I just happen to know someone who does just that. And you're about to meet her today on Women Who Inspire. All right, today we're going to meet with somebody that I think you'll really love. Rhonda is literally a travel agent, but she comes from a unique background that really helps her in a lot of ways. And here she is right now. Rhonda,
hi, Danny.
hello.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
It's always good to see you.
I'm glad you finally let me in your house.
Oh, anytime. Come on in. Come on in. Got it.
So this business, how long did it take to start this thing up? It wasn't like overnight, was it?
No, it wasn't overnight. Great question. We actually, it takes probably 2 years for a good travel advisor to build a clientele.
That's what most people don't think about is the marketing aspect. Where do you get your customers and things like that?
Especially if you're not already connected.
Yeah.
It's hard to kind of pull groups and people together, but once you start tapping into the right groups, it starts to take off.
Yeah. Okay. Every person has this idea they want to go in business. A lot of people do. A lot of women who are sitting home, they need something to do. They're looking at videos like this to find that out.
Sure.
How did you start? What?
The number one thing I say is follow your passion. So if it's something that it gets you excited, then you should probably start researching that and take that avenue. For me, I've been doing travel for decades, and I was already pulling together groups of fun people and family. So I knew I liked travel. I also knew I loved food. And I kept thinking, how can I put this together?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So, I think if you love it, it's going to fall into place. But you have to love it because you think about it 24/7.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You definitely do. No, there's no business that doesn't take that much time.
Right.
But the better part of this is, I talked to you before, and you said it only took me like 1.5 years to go from my idea to actually doing it.
Right.
And there's some things that people have to know that you knew in order to make that happen. One is you're a CPA, right?
Right. I worked for, I actually have done a number of different accounting jobs. So I worked for a CPA firm in South Florida. I've worked as a CFO. I've worked as just a bookkeeper at times. So I've been a number of different accounting type hats. So I actually had that on me. Like, for instance, I knew some of the businesses that were more successful that I did books for, they spent 20 to 25% of their income on marketing.
Wow.
So I knew I was going to have to pull out some change for marketing.
Sure.
I would not have wanted to. I would have thought, oh, that's something I'll figure out. But no, it's important.
Oh, and that's the first thing people don't do.
Yeah.
Because they'll walk down the street, they'll see all these people in business, and they assume that they're doing great business.
Yeah.
When it could be that they're not.
Yeah.
Or that they came in. I've seen so many people actually start a business, or not start a business, they'll buy a business. And they'll think they have a better idea than the next guy.
Right.
And it doesn't sound like you had the better idea, but you did the exact things that were necessary to happen. Because in most businesses, it takes, 3 to 5 years to really turn a profit?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not in your case, though.
Well, I was just very lucky. I actually happened to be working at a CPA firm where a lot of our clients were restaurants and chefs.
Oh.
So that was part of my love, and I just tapped right into that. So that kind of helped me get started. My first trip I booked was for actually an Indian chef who beat Bobby Flay on the Bobby Flay show.
Oh, really?
That was my very first client, and from then on, I went, this is where I am.
And so when you're asking these people to join you on the cruise, the people like Bobby, I'm not a foodie guy.
Bobby Flay,
yeah, I mean, I'm a hot dog and bean guy, When you ask these people, they're saying yes. That's an attractant to people coming on, and you've kind of captured a real unique aspect of business.
It's amazing how many people like that combo of food and travel. I mean,
really?
It's all over the place. If you YouTube food and travel, there's so many people out there that are doing it.
Wow.
But for me to be able to sit in the background and say, yep, let me help you. And tell me what you're wanting to experience. Are you wanting the best gelato in Rome, or you want to go to a boulangerie in France, or, what maybe some really good fresh fish in Sweden, who knows? But whatever they're wanting to do, I can help them make that part of their trip. So.
Okay. And the unique part of it, and we've used her services. Basically, we've used your services twice now, and love it every time. And it's because you've been on these cruises, you know about it. For my life, my career, I traveled all over the world. The one thing I did do, every time we traveled, we got a local person who actually knew what was going on. You could be in some way considered local because of the fact that you've already been on this and you've got this information you can pull from all these sources, these websites. And I know you work extra hours. I see you posting at midnight at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, I think last night it was 2 a.m. I pulled together one for a trip that we just started in 25. So yeah, but again, you need to do what you love and what your passion is, because at 2 a.m. you're going to go, yeah, this is what I want to do. And you'll start throwing ideas together. So,
oh, yeah.
And I'm not upset about it. I'm not, am I a little tired? Probably.
Yeah.
But I love what it turned out to look like. So.
Yeah. Well, so your expertise, you basically found a niche that wasn't taken over.
Yeah.
From what I could see.
Yeah, well, I love the name of my business. I was thrilled that wasn't taken, So,
Culinary Latitudes Travel. And that's actually, that's a piece of word to say, but it rings out in your brain. You don't forget that. Culinary Latitudes Travel.
Yeah. It
It's a really good name.
says it all, right? It tells you what I'm doing. So,
exactly, yeah. And it's one aspect people don't get is the first contact. It may be your logo or something that they need to see at least 12, 8 to 12 times before they go, wonder what that is.
Yeah. And sometimes I go back and go, well, do I really like that logo? And then I think, people recognize it. So I need to keep it. But
Yeah. I think people can actually get overly involved in a name or a logo. You can go so far and then you need to stop. It's like an 80-20. So you're going to spend all your time just trying to develop,
don't get stuck on that. Don't get stuck. Move forward.
No, there's so much to this business. But I think the cool part is the first time we went on it, we went with you.
I was excited to have you. You were my videographer on that trip. I could see you running from one end of the ship to the other. It was awesome.
I'm passionate about my business.
Yeah, you are. But you did a great job. That was fun. And everybody enjoyed seeing the videos and themselves in the videos.
Oh, yeah. I every once in a while, just for a happy moment, I watch my videos of that trip.
That's awesome.
Yeah, to be honest with you, this last trip, I didn't take any cameras on me at all because the last time Ginger went with me and she said, you ain't taking any cameers, but I had my phone.
I was going to say.
And now we're glad we did because we can sit back and watch those.
Sure.
And that's half the deal when you're going on these trips. First off, not to have to worry about each and every step of the way because you've already understood what it takes to get through this whole process and, all the way down to the ship.
Yeah.
We could travel on one of these big ships, but traveling on a smaller ship,
night and day.
It's night and day. It's so nice. Yeah.
I started when my kids were young going on some of the bigger ships. I started way back just traveling, without doing ships. It was more, just not really rugged, but I was just doing my own booking of hotels and whatnot. But when you start tapping into some of these tour guides and some of these cruise lines, they've done a big part of your work already. So you just go, okay, what's your style of travel? What kind of travel do you prefer? And the small ships, they sneak you into some of the smaller ports. They stay overnight. And if you look at apples to apples, the price is about the same. So.
Yeah. See, that's the other part is you've done the research on the cost and everything. I know, for somebody starting out in business, they're forgetting that these things, that customer service really is a huge part of it.
Big.
Yeah.
So if I look at the 30 to 40 year, that demographic, these people are savvy purchasers. And so I try to make sure, one piece of my job is going out there and seeing who's offering what I'm offering and how much they're paying for it or how much they're offering it for. And so I try to do something that makes mine a little more unique, a little more value, so they know that they're getting a good deal.
How do you maintain that pace? Because I know you do pretty good you're going most of the time.
I am moving. I have meetings outside of the home where my office is, and then I have time. I have a whiteboard downstairs that I actually ran across that I haven't used in about 5 years, and it had a list of my daily activities, and I've pretty much stuck to what's on that board. That's kind of funny, but
interesting.
Yeah, but my Mondays are basically pulling together my week and understanding, what meetings I have set up already, and following up on any work that didn't get finished last week, and starting something fresh.
Okay.
So, but it is, I would say, about 50% marketing.
Okay.
So the rest of it is paperwork and speaking one-on-one with the clients and understanding what they want.
Yeah, got it.
But I have to tell you, if I can share, AI has been kind of a godsend to me. I mean, you really have to watch it and make sure that it's accurate with what it's sharing with me.
Uh-huh.
But you're talking about the creatives and kind of getting burnt out. That happens. That's a real thing. And it was happening to me. And so when I realized this Chat GPT or some other ones that are out there were available to me, it was amazing. It was like a new, like I got a breath of fresh air and I started fresh. I give it information. It comes back to me and I love how it comes back. I say, okay, here's something I want to share. Now make it funny, and it'll do that. So yeah. So it's kind of a nice, it's been a perk for me and my business and helping me get out of my my burnout stage.
How much of it is actually realizing, like me, for many years, I worked in a 10 by 12 shack in the back of my yard. And I'd have to go down like every 3-4 hours to just get a drink at 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
So I could get around people.
Get out of the house.
Yeah.
I get it.
Is that something that you kind of have to manage in your process too?
Oh,
or?
absolutely. I mean, working at home, I've got my dogs at my feet, but that's not a lot of conversation.
No.
So yeah, I absolutely do that. And during COVID, it would kind of pull me back and there wasn't a lot of interaction. So thankfully I was able to Zoom or, do some kind of video chat, which helped. But tell you what, getting out of the house and meeting people one-on-one, that really lights a fire.
That rejuvenates you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Seeing the smiles, we were talking about this on another video with a person about, and she called it giggles. Getting those giggles, the moments where you put some happiness in somebody else's life, that's so valuable. And that's one of those things.
If
I didn't have to worry about the financing, the marketing, and all that stuff, I'd have fun just making smiles.
Yeah.
Big time return. But you get a lot of those, don't you?
That connection. Well, you do. For the most part, you do. Absolutely. I mean, there's the only reason something, people might not smile is because they wanted to do more than one tour and they couldn't do both of them. So something like that. But for the most part, vacations are fun and it's a nice clientele. So,
on the trip that we just took here, the one that you put together, it was so funny. We had a really great waiter, and several of them, they come around and we went from being Danny and Ginger to being Madame and what do you call it? The gentleman.
Oh, the gentleman.
I looked up at the guy. I said, "If you knew me, dude, you would say gentleman." But it was crazy. We got waited on hand and foot, and I remember saying to Ginger, because I was really going through a burnout before this trip, that I'm going to let them babysit me and pamper me in big ways. I even got a massage.
Good for you.
Holy mackerel.
Good for you. That's a vacation. To me, that's a real vacation. I mean, don't get me wrong. When I was younger, I loved going, to countries and just kind of hiking around and doing that. But now, I want somebody to take care of me.
When you've actually saved up enough money to go on these trips and you're deserving of it, that's when you go, pamper me.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I mean, even if it's 1 week out of a year, people in America need to realize this is important.
Oh, yeah. I honestly think that, now that I've discovered massages to help the old body rejuvenate, and it really does.
Yes.
And the trips.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to work harder.
Nothing wrong with taking care of yourself. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong.
No. I could call you the Queen of Happy if I wanted to.
I love that. I'll take it. I'll take that name.
Okay, so the next time, Queen's kind of like, okay, I'll call you Princess.
Princess.
What's up, Princess?
Even better. I'll call you Gentleman.
Oh, no, my gosh. No, call me Redneck. That's where it's supposed to be.
I love it.
All right, man. Well, one of the things that I think in business has been really important to me is just that ability to work and look at financing. You're juggling that stuff all the time. For me, I had to do it. I had to do product analysis on how much does it cost? What's the, I hate to say this because it's not in your world necessarily. Mine's a flinch point. I want to get enough money for this, but when do they flinch? Yours is a whole different factor in there.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure you have to go through the same processes, just with a little different,
Well, and there's still a flinch point. I mean, it's definitely, I actually like that term. Because I have to know what that point is with everybody, because there's vacation packages for all budgets. And unless I really get to know somebody, I don't want to walk into somebody that's, wanting to do a land tour that's going to cost them much less than if they were to do a luxury cruise. And not that the luxury cruise isn't worth it. It's fabulous and absolutely worth it. But it's definitely that point where they're going to go, I can't do a trip. And
sure.
We don't want that. We want them to take a vacation, take care of themselves.
So, I didn't even think of that. Well, for business, when people want to get into business, you can kind of see how many things you really have to focus on. The finances, where people are and what they want budget-wise.
Sure. Sure.
Gosh, I can't even think of
So
them
there's
all.
the main things to look at, right? You have the basic of your trip, whether it's a cruise or a land tour of some kind, but you also are going to have your airfare, which is always all over the board. We never know where that's going to be. And you're also going to have insurance if people want the insurance. So those are the three bigs. And if they want to do, if they're doing a cruise, if they want to do pre or post hotels, we can add that into the package as well. But they need to realize all the points, and look at that as their big budget instead of just the cruise, because it'll be more than that. We don't want them to be shocked.
No,
at all.
No. Yeah, I like the fact that you've, through your research, and I'm sure it's just as time has gone along and more times that you work on this, you learn something every time you do it. You're also gathering these little tricks of the trade.
Yeah.
Where I could go out and try to book something, I've done it, and most of the times I don't win. Right, but I have producers who are really good at scheduling things and booking the right flights, finding the best cost.
Sure.
That's where you come in with a huge value.
Yeah.
But it only comes through experience.
Well, I don't think a lot of people realize the value of a travel advisor, because what was it back in the 80s, 90s? It was all online, and I was doing it online, and that was the best way to do it. That was the best. Nobody was booking their flights, through the airline themselves anymore.
Yeah.
They were doing it online. And the thing that a lot of people are just starting to learn, I feel like it's picking up because, I don't know if it's a rumor or a secret, it's getting out, excuse me, but people are learning that travel agents have deep pockets with either a concierge or a host agency that they tie themselves with. And there's many of them out there, and I have to find the one that works best for me.
Sure.
But they help me give my client the best value.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for them, I probably would still be, maybe back to like I was in year 1 or 2. But because of them, they're helping me get the word out that the value's there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, relationships are everything in business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And even, so looking at kind of the new way everything's going online, people are savvy to, going to Google, but they're even better. I mean, I think one of the better marketing things is called the influencer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. If you can get an influencer to review you or your services, that's huge. My business went, my business went from here up to here with one influencer.
Really?
Yeah. And he had a reach to a specific niche in the market.
Interesting.
And it went crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe
So,
that's something I need to tap into.
possibly. That just goes back to business. We're learning
Yeah.
every second of the way. And like I've said in other videos, I learned from companies that I videotaped with. And a lot of times I would actually go in and film a meeting that nobody else was invited into but the bigwigs or marketing or this or that. And I learned one thing that really got me through COVID. That was stay in front of the inevitable. Okay, don't look at change as a bad thing. Look at it as an opportunity.
Yes.
I did that, and I started a 3D printing job. And then overnight, I went from start to I sold 6 products.
Wow.
And then from there, it just went crazy.
Wow.
So, yeah. Business is one of those things that you have to stay ahead of the inevitable. You have to look to the future. And I'm sure, COVID really wrapped things up in a different way for you too.
Yeah, I think I was mentioning earlier, I could tell you exactly where I was and what I was doing when I heard that it was an issue here in the States.
Yeah.
And I actually had been to Asia right before I went to a party at your house. And after the party at your house, I got sick. And the doctors...
Most people do.
Yeah, well, no. That actually came out wrong, didn't it? That came out so wrong. Erase that. But actually, I got sick before we knew COVID was an issue. And afterwards, the doctors had said, yeah, it sounds like you had COVID.
Yeah.
So
You were the early adapters.
I'm not saying I was ground zero, but I'm saying I think that it was here before we knew it was.
Yeah.
But I remember when it became news, it was newsworthy. And I could tell you what I was doing. I actually was getting ready for the evening to go to bed at night, and I turned on the news. And I crawled into bed, and I'm listening to this, and in my mind, I'm going, this is not good for business. So,
No kidding.
yeah. So I had to kind of reinvent myself. And I started thinking, do I want to go back to accounting? No, I really didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, even though I was doing some marketing for some of the CPA firms I was with, but I didn't want to do that. So thankfully the government, bailed me out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was able to just focus on my marketing. And once people were traveling again, it happened. It just kind of blossomed. So.
Oh, that's awesome. One of the things that I have not done really is ask you questions about yourself and how you grew up. A lot of people, they see these successful people out there and they go, I really don't know any backstory other than they're successful. Where'd you grow up at?
Yeah, I grew up in Gurnee, Illinois, but when Gurnee, Illinois, back in the 50s and 60s, when I grew up, I just told all that, didn't I? Anyways, but when I grew up, it was a cow town, much like Milliken, where I am right now.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it wasn't a lot of people, a few thousand people. We had to go 20 minutes to a half an hour to get anywhere to, do anything with anybody. So very similar to where I am now. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, yeah, we grew up kind of, I would say, middle poor class, and Dad worked as a manager at a lumber yard, and Mom took on maybe side jobs now and then to get extra cash. Maybe she would work for the local bakery or the cleaners.
Yeah.
But her goal was to raise 3, well-adjusted kiddos, and so I was the oldest of 3. And lived in Illinois until I was in my early 20s when I decided I needed an adventure and came to Colorado.
You started this adventure stuff way back then.
You know what? When I was a little kid, I have to share with you, we had a globe that would sit on our end table in the living room. And it was just a really cheapy, inexpensive globe. You could twirl it, and it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I would sit there at the edge of the couch and literally spend hours just twirling it and doing this with my finger and letting wherever it stopped, it's where I was going. And I was probably 10 years old when I was.
Oh, I did the same thing, but it was out of books, and every time I'd peel a page back, it was jail. I'm like,
Yeah, you need a globe.
Yeah, gloves are better. They're safer.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
That's funny.
Wow. So you think, it's funny. I do see a lot of people who grew up in smaller towns really successful. And, I know why is it that, I hear from other people, we're always our worst enemy. But so many people from smaller towns seem like, do they have that thought in there?
Yeah.
I don't know if you deal with that or not. I know a lot of people who do. I was just thinking about this morning. I prepare for failure. My wife always, in looking at what I'm doing, she prepares for success. And it's just a different idea. It really is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I feel like for myself, I had been doing things that I'd love to do all along, but I didn't decide to make it a business until I was a lot more mature. And I know that, my kids have never heard me say this, but I wanted them to be proud of me. I wanted to do something that they would say, yeah, your mom really does have it together. So I hope they think that way. But,
oh, yeah. Well, I sure would, because I do see your success. Anytime a person can start a business and keep that business going for a number of years, that itself is success because it's so hard. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I know is you got to swing with the changes in times.
Absolutely. And anybody who made it through COVID, kudos to them.
Yeah.
I feel like, they've worked hard to get there. I know that.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot driving along here. I don't think people can see because it's just blown out there, but every single trash can is blown over.
Yeah. It's definitely having a windy day. They call Chicago the Windy City, but sometimes here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know a guy who started a business when ice storm came through. They had that business for probably 30 years. The trees fell down. They all over the place.
They did cleanup?
He did. He started a business that day, started cleaning up. He took all these trees out to a property, and then what he did is he turned that into a business. He mulched all the trees. He sold mulch. He sold, he would actually, it was a whole business without going into it.
Some people are so clever, though. They can see a need and they just run with it. So, yeah. Good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
I don't want to mulch trees.
No, and you know what? That's the thing. Not everybody wants to do what other people are doing. That's what makes this country so great as far as being able to start small businesses and do what we love.
You know that because you go to other countries and where do we have the resources? I mean, we have resources. We're in a small town, but 20 minutes away, we have resources I can get to do just about anything.
Yeah.
And now with darn Amazon, because they give me everything I need and more.
I fought it for years. I've given in.
Yeah. Well, it does make it nice when you can actually resource things and research things right online like you've done with your business.
It is, yeah, to have things at your fingertip. I mean, talk about being different from when I was growing up. I mean, that was unheard of. I would not have had access to all the information I have access to now. And just learning to trust, that certain sites that you need to know are good and they'll give you accurate information. And that's just another piece to everybody's business, right? You have to make sure you're tapping into the right people. So.
Exactly. Well, the other thing about it is when people, I always tell people, you got to have mentors to start out, because they have been in it for 20 years or more.
Yep.
They've gone through the hardships. They learned everything that they need to have to put in place and do the business, just like yours. You put in the time to actually build the relationships and to learn how to use those relationships to benefit both you and your vendor. That's significant.
Right. It is. I mean, it's a close relationship between the client and the vendor for myself. I mean, I'm the middle person.
Yeah.
I pull in the right vendor for the right client, and then we just make everything in a package with a bow, and here you go, on a silver platter.
Yeah, and that's what I like so much. I don't need to know the why or the how.
Yeah.
When I'm buying services, all I need to know is that you got good references, and you do.
Yeah.
And I get to go have fun.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah, right now driving through here, we see a lot of small businesses, and I would assume that a certain portion of them will come and go.
Yeah.
We see that all the time.
Absolutely.
And I just think that it's people who really do the research ahead of time.
Our little ice cream place just got bought out.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Somebody else is stepping in, Paradise Ice Cream.
Well, that might be a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's never, you don't know why the people are leaving and what, caused them to stay in business as long as they did. And
Yeah.
new is always good.
Yeah. I like talking to business people and I've always liked this, because I get information every time I do that I didn't know. It kind of goes back to that thing where we got to get out and get connected.
Yeah.
Chambers, if you don't work a chamber, then it will not provide for you. But if you work a chamber and you basically generate those relationships,
Yeah.
man, it can help out.
Yeah. You can't just join and be a name.
No.
You have to participate.
No, that's for sure. And you're gonna die when you hear this. But I joined the chamber a little over a year ago in Greeley. And this year Ginger says, we need to do that again. You made some good money from that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome, Danny.
Yeah. And then about 5 days ago, I was putting the invoice together for one company that I made through those connections at the chamber. And, it's not the one connection. It's actually, you go through different layers. Yeah. And we lost $12,000 due to the company went out of business.
Oh, no.
So I said, well, it's a wash now, Ginger.
Oh, no.
But, that just goes to doing good business. You need to research those things.
Yeah.
I was kind of leery about this. It was a startup company, and they're going to go through their next wave of funding. So we may come back. Yeah.
Come back to fruition
But
never burn bridges. You should never ever burn bridges, because you never know who will come back and use or maybe recommend you to somebody else.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
It takes more time to burn a bridge than it does to walk away and enjoy life.
It's exhausting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. It never is worth it. I've always thought that.
Yeah.
But that's awesome that the chamber's worked out to help you, and hopefully it'll do the same for next year if you guys stay with it.
It's so crazy the way it worked. Sometimes you got to put yourself out there in a way that you're maybe not making a huge profit or anything, but you don't want to give it up, and you don't want to establish yourself as cheap.
Exactly.
Those are important things. But
you're preaching to the choir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel
We
the
all
same
start
way.
out that way, charging too little,
Yeah.
and that's a good point. I want this to be about you, but when things come up, I want to share this information to the people who are watching. When you establish your price as low, there's a perceived value.
Absolutely.
Low quality,
Absolutely.
nobody thinks about that. Low quality is equal to bad business. You get the idea.
Well, and when the time comes for you to increase your rates, and if you want to increase them to what's actually a real rate for you, they're going to go, wow, he increased that 50%. Tell me how that happened and why.
They'll walk away.
Yeah. So if you start low, you'll just follow that trajectory.
It takes you longer to get to where you should have been 5-10 years ago.
Exactly.
And I gotta say, I was one of the worst. I was literally, when I When I started doing video here in northern Colorado, I was doing a full-on entire TV commercial for $400. That's not even a half-day rate right now. And of course, times have changed, but
Was that $400 for the whole half a day?
400 thing for the whole wrapped, edited everything.
Wow.
I was so busy. I got burned out
So
4
did you not
times a year.
recognize your value at that time?
Oh, I never have. You can ask Ginger. I never have
To
recognized.
this day, really?
No, it's one of those things where I never want to be a guy with an ego. I would rather have friends.
Yeah.
So that part of it, I see my value as equality.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my first value. I value what am I feeling and looking like I'm equal to everyone else.
Yep.
It's okay if I look lower.
And that's important to me as well for travel, because when I do group travel, I earn credit and I share that credit with everybody.
I've noticed that,
So-
and that's what makes me go,
Yeah.
how does she make her money?
I had a client say, they asked me to do something and I said, oh, maybe not this month, maybe next month. And they said, if you would stop giving all your money away, you could do these things.
Oh, shoot.
But it works out. I mean,
Yeah.
I know how to work the system and how to work with the vendors. So spicy.
It is a business. What's that?
I like spicy. That's the name of their I love that. Sorry, I interrupted. Sorry.
No problem. Spicy. Wow.
I love
guess
it.
that's your own self-perception.
Yeah. Well, do you follow the Denver weather guy by any chance?
No.
He's hilarious. You should check him out if you haven't. He uses the word spicy for bad weather all the time.
Oh, really?
But
Spicy weather.
Actually, I'm one of his, what do you call it? He promotes me.
Wow.
Why? What is the reason? Sponsor. I'm one of his sponsors.
Uh-huh.
But I really enjoy him. He knows his stuff. He's right on
yeah.
target with his weather. And yeah, he just studied it in Greeley. He lives in Greeley.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not Mike Landis, is it? Or...
Nope, not Mike Landis.
Okay, Mike Landis. Oh, that's a name way back. Golly.
I remember that name. Wasn't he part of the Weather Channel with the one of the
He was like
big channels?
CBS or something like
Yeah.
that locally, and I actually did an internship there when Mike Landis was there
Really?
at Channel 9. And
For weather?
Yeah. No, I didn't do it. I did it for production work,
Oh,
but
okay.
I walked by and I'd see Mike Landis in there he'd do a half-hour script, no mess-ups whatsoever.
Yeah, some people are good like that.
Unbelievable. Yeah, do you ever look into research different ways of marketing?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Because it's always changing.
And different people gather information differently. So
Yeah.
it's like depending on what you're doing. I mean, social media is lovely and it's a great way to get information out there.
Oh, yeah.
But some people, especially, the more mature people that travel, they still read the newspaper. So, and that's one thing I haven't tapped into yet. So at one point I might want to do that.
Oh, I tell you what, that is the one thing. I used to read books about marketing, and they're always talking about where is the watering hole.
Yeah.
For your particular market, you have to actually live your people's lives to figure out what they want,
Yeah.
where they water, where they are every day. When I'll give you a little insight on this one. When I started this channel, first off, I had to find a niche that wasn't being served, and that's the women who are at home trying to figure out what to do to occupy their time or ambitions or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I saw, this is a good one. Women are not getting information with other women. They want to hear about other women's and other women's success. And you'll find this funny. I wanted a lot of audience, right? So I went through and I said, okay, I'm looking for the word M. That means million subscribers or million views.
Sure.
And it kept coming back. This is it. So it'll be
Really?
really interesting. Yeah, I don't do anything without a lot of research.
But I love that. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you just find that what I do is I mimic success. So Peter Sansanello is growing in success exponentially. He's another YouTuber. And, I'm one of these guys that when I did network television, I wanted to do all the shots you need, this and that. I would never just use one GoPro camera to shoot anything. I'd have to have multiple, if anything. And then when I go back, I edit and put it all together. But Peter just had a GoPro in his hand, walk around.
He's so natural. You've turned me on to him, and he's so natural.
He is natural.
Yeah.
He literally, he talks about human interest stories, and he's never judging. I think that's the best part about it. Don't make judgment, just deliver the information and let people make their own judgments or gather information or benefit themselves from learning that. So it's funny, I've always had a certain vision of a certain religion that's out there, and I won't mention it, but he posted one yesterday on that religion. And some of my precomposed ideas of that, they just washed away.
Really?
Like, holy mackerel.
Interesting.
I've been thinking wrongly all these years. So
Or just differently.
differently, yeah. Yeah, well, it was based off of society's vision, how they
Sure,
create it.
sure.
And a lot of times that can be wrong.
Yeah, and that's what that brings us back to. We're always learning, right? Doesn't
Oh,
matter
yeah.
how old we are, we're always learning.
Yeah, and that one thing of failure, the word failure, I think it shouldn't even be in the vocabulary. Failure is a bad word for learning.
I look at failure as learning. I don't think it's failure. I think, okay, lesson learned, check it off, move on.
I think I heard you say that before, lesson learned.
Yeah,
And a lot of successful people use that word, lesson learned.
yeah.
The military actually does that. I know because I worked at Lowry Air Force Base for a while, and they have videos, reviews of lessons learned.
Really?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That'd be interesting to watch.
Oh, it is. And I think, every once in a while we should reset, look back at where we came from,
Sure.
and not be embarrassed. If you feel embarrassed, you should be proud of yourself, because where you are now is substantially higher than where you were before.
Right.
Therefore, you're embarrassed, right?
Right.
But recognize you're accelerating faster than you're comfortable with.
And learning to appreciate it. Just appreciate it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you looking into women's businesses more than you know.
I just knew this would be really interesting and fun. So what you've done today is you've opened another door to people who have interest in doing things outside of their comfort zone. And I just knew with your personality, it would be a great time.
Well,
So
I hope
thank
so.
you
Oh.
so very much for doing this.
Thank you for allowing me to be part of it. And I hope there's other women that are watching and then they go, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
do this too.
Share the wealth and share the knowledge.
Exactly.
That's
Share
where
the
you come in. I couldn't do it.
wealth.